Welcome to the Grassroots 3D Print and Paint. My name's Kevin, and welcome to my latest video. Mary Jane Graffiti Wall 3D model printed on an Anycubic Mono 7 resin printer and a Bambu H2S FDM printer. I started off printing the base in all FDM. I printed the Mary Jane parts in resin ABS-like. I primed the parts using Citadel Chaos Black. I like this because it's thin and easy to use. I'm going to switch to the Kaleido black primer in the matte full time as it's cheaper and it goes down about the same. I really do like the Chaos rattle cans, but they are a little bit more expensive and I don't necessarily like running out and having to switch in between, so that tends to be a pain in the ass. But you can see it does give great coverage and everything else, so I really do enjoy that. And we'll be moving on to the skin here shortly. I am starting the skin with a technique I borrowed from ground affected videos and also old Painter Man, which is a pink purple, also called Pinkle for overall coverage, but I use a transparent paint like an idiot. It was a bit light. After the pieces were covered, I noticed that it was transparent, so I really didn't mess around with it too much. I wasn't going to go back in and go because most of this stuff gets covered up. It's a bit more of a guide than it is a see-through. I watch these guys and I know that they show the see-through and I don't always get it right, but I think I do a pretty decent job and I'm learning. I'm only about a year in, so give me a little bit of grace on this, please. I do enjoy this, and I can see the differences in the skin colors for sure. But it is a process that it takes a long time because you're using multiple coverage. I then go about and use a red ink from the lower sides in the shadow areas. This creates depth, or so I'm told. I have seen this work well, but it is still something to get used to with the thickness of the paints and the inks. It's not as easy as it seems. It is very tedious at times to make sure you get it right, but getting it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be uniform or a specific spot. It really just has to be in there and done. 2 spots on the legs were a pain in the butt on this model, but it is what it is. The next piece is the skin colors using a base flesh tone coverage with a thinner consistency. You could see that I'm just going for an overall color and coverage here on this, and on top of that you can pretty much see the coverage gets in there. It's really nice to get a base color down but not go too thick over everything, because if you go too thick you'll just be covering up what you already put down, which is something that I've had to learn and start over a ton of times. Going on to the chest here, and the next will be the arms, which really just give them, a light misting here to get them covered as best you can. I was really double checking to make sure that the shadows are still there in this, and the hands, which it was, but it still gets covered up with a lot of stuff, so there was that. You'll see that part. You could see it's really just a light coat. Moving on to a bit more of a yellow wash to change the saturation. Again, messing around with my settings to make sure I didn't spray the hell out of this stuff. It's really just a quick coat, just to kind of give it a little bit of the desaturation of the color. I do understand color theory, but this is very different for me. This is not something I'm used to. Again, I'm just about a year into this, loving every minute of it, but I'm trying out new techniques every day, even ones with like going to be doing an upcoming 1-coat color for the skin and then adding the shadows in, because I think I might be better at that, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I basically make sure we go from there, and the next would be I go into like a thinner orangish skin, like a bit more of a lighter, next step lighter base tone for coverage on the head, coverage in the other parts here. The chest, as usual, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's so many different parts. Getting that in around the belly, getting it around the chest area, and then going in, of course, to the arms, double checking those to make sure I'm not just painting over everything I did, to see where there's some see-through. And the next tone that I'll be using is more like a shadow pink orange, also called Orcish Dervish-like. I can't find that, as I believe everybody else can, so I get something as close as I can, making sure to hit all the shadows. You'll see some of that as a closer up, where you'll get that little pinky orange color, which is actually a really cool color, I think. And then I go in after this, once everything's done, you'll see me go in with an overall skin color and a light color with a highlight, just to basically cover up a lot of the stuff, to see where we are in where almost the final skin tone is. But again, this is a process, and yes, I know that there's a hole in the arm. I did leave it there because I got to the point where I overlooked it so much that I forgot it was there. And yeah, oh well. These are for me. I don't sell them. I'm learning. I get better and better every week, and I'm just doing this to learn. It's a great bit of fun. I'm not perfect at it. I'm 51 years old. I have big, shaky hands, so it just is what it is. You'll see some of the stuff coming up and things I skip on video because I'm just not quite great at it yet. This was going in with a little bit of a yellow, with very, very super thinned out yellow transparent paint, just to go back and to desaturate in the areas to make sure that they're not completely orange and pink. Just really, really getting it back to a more of a skin tone look. It turned out really, really well. I did go back in and add some filler into that, or I should say not some filler. I added some cover, some highlights, and some shadows manually with my airbrush, as you can probably see, and sometimes even off camera. You'll see my wonderful garage workshop in the background there with 1,000 things that don't belong anywhere near that paint booth. I'm thinking about getting one of those waterfall paint booths. What's everybody think of that? I really like them, and I really want to get them. I saw one video where the guy had one that was really, really nice. I just hate cleaning the filters constantly. I'm bad at it, like I'm sure a lot of people are. So, I don't know. I guess I'll figure that out as I get there, but I'm just, trying to figure this out as I go and upgrade when I can, at the same time, not just spend crazy amounts of money on things that I don't really have any business spending money on, to be perfectly honest with you. Just hitting everything, as you can see on these pieces parts. I will be speeding these up because I don't really feel like talking in later videos just like crazy, because I thought I sped this up like 4 times, but obviously I did not. So we'll have more spun up. This is just me putting the yellow on there to get it finished up, and be moving on to other parts here soon. If anybody has any tips, tricks, please by all means let me know. Thinner paints, if you see things that you think that I should be doing differently, by all means, please. I take criticism very well. Just don't be an ass about it. I'm not, so don't be. And as you can see now too, I move on to the base with a dry brush. Use a few different colors on this. Started off with a base black for the bottom and a base filler primer for the back of the wall. A few different colors to make it look a bit more like asphalt, making sure to hit the highlights with a couple different colors. I went like with a dark gray, and then I went into like a medium gray, and then used a ivory or deck tan for the highlights on this. It actually turned out pretty good. I think I do very, very well with the dry brushing and the bases. It's a bit more of my speed, and something I've learned a little bit better. It wasn't that bad. I like it a lot. You can see the base is really turning into a little bit more, different with depth and everything else. Those are spray cans on the bottom that get painted later. I didn't show a lot of that stuff. Again, I'm trying to get all the pieces, parts, and record, figure all this stuff out for you guys. I don't always get it correct, but it is. Here's me masking off the Spider-Man symbol on the back, which is really cool, actually. I really love the back of this model. I use just your standard red from Kaleido, which I really do like their paints for the red. Masked it off, getting it nice and red, and getting it saturated to where everything's covered, but not so covered to where it looks like it was, spray painted a little drippy. There's kind of a really quick look at it, what it looked like after the masking came off. I went in and touched up some of the background, some of the mess ups. And you'll see that this first what I'm doing is going with the primer and going in and just getting rid of some of the leftover red that was sprayed that I missed, I guess. Going in with the airbrush, sliding it around, making sure that I don't get too many mess ups on this, but you know, it's graffiti, so it kind of looks like it's supposed to be messed up in a lot of ways. So I wasn't really too worried about that. I did use a black sponge brush to go over the outlines. It gave it a really cool look. I really didn't have to spend my time going through and detail painting. It's almost like a print press in a lot of ways. And then I went back and touched it up again with some paint markers, I do believe. Yes, I do use paint markers. Get over it. I use them because my hands and it's the smaller paint brushes. I'm still learning. All right, what you're seeing now is some shadows and some darkening for the base and the walls with some Griff Charger gray from Citadel. Really love that stuff. I love Citadel paints. I think people say things about them and they're too expensive or they're this, that, and the other, but the contrast paints are really nice. They go through the airbrushes so well and they add a lot. I've really learned layering with that. I really have to just get better with transparent paints, to be perfectly honest with you. Again, this is a process. This is not, I'm no expert. I don't even think I'm good. I think I'm very below average, or maybe even a slightly close to average. I wouldn't say anything. I don't ever do that. Here's the eyes. I went in really close with a white primer. Pay no attention to the big bald head there. Oh, terrible. I went in and just really got them done and made them even look like they're blown out a little bit, because they're supposed to look like they're spray painted and have a messy appearance, but it turned out really cool. I didn't really go back in and try and touch them up to get them perfect, because again, it's supposed to be spray painted. Here's my double spray booth, and then you're gonna see me starting with the colors now. I got basically moving on to the pants. I used a base blue from Kaleido for this as jeans. You'll see that for coverage. Later on, when it's done that you don't get to see, I did a dry brushing technique on them to make them look like jeans, which was really nice. Just lighten the blue and dry brush them on in all the areas. Really made them look like jeans. I used a gloss black for the boots to give them a patent leather type look, because that's what the reference picture showed me. She's masked off chest and everything else with an army green top, which was really cool from the reference image. The green was almost spot on perfect from the reference image. I did like that. I later on went in and used a marker to get the Spider-Man symbol on her shirt. Up close it looks like crap, but that's just the nature of the beast for me. I haven't quite learned to master the paintbrush yet, but I'm getting better with it every day. Her hair, it's funny, it looks really red here, but I used a dark red from Vallejo, which it turned out really nice in the overall pictures of it. I didn't go back and dry brush the hair because her hair wasn't really printed. The model wasn't printed with a lot of detail. So dry brushing it really just would have not done much for it, except for maybe give it some depth and some waviness. I did mess the face up a little bit, but here you goes with the final product. Unfortunately, the face did not get added. I do apologize for that. I'll see you next time.